All right, welcome back to another episode of Phrasing FM, a podcast where I talk about languages and my experience building an app to learn them. Today, I want to talk about one of my favorite concepts in phrasing, and it's the concept that I feel sets phrasing apart from other applications the most. And it's the concept of three-dimensional reviews. All flashcard applications are at least one-dimensional under this concept. Flashcard applications work by you create a flashcard, and it shows it to you at increasingly long intervals over time. So that time variable, that's what's changing. That's the first dimension of flashcards. And of course, phrasing works the same way. We have a spaced repetition system. We use the same base algorithm under the hood that Anki does. So a very battle-tested, very effective, very powerful algorithm to vary the reviews over time. However, most flashcard applications stop here, and it ends up leaving flashcards feeling very flat. And so phrasing adds two additional layers on top of it. The first thing we added is what I call the second dimension. And this is the idea that when you add an expression in phrasing, you're not just adding a sentence to review, but we analyze the expression, we break apart every word, and we connect it to our language graph. So every word is interconnected. So if you have the same word multiple times, we know that it's the same word multiple times, and we link those together automatically. We go even further than this by analyzing the word and determining the root, the dictionary form, any underlying forms, subforms, morphemes, affixes, etc., and we link them up that way. So if there's a compound word that is combined from two words that you know, there's a good chance that you already know that compound word. And so we will link those up together. And as you're doing reviews, we'll choose the best word for you to learn. So you just add expressions, and we choose the word for you to study. And that could be any word in the expression. We have our language contouring technique that will decide which word we teach you at which time, but we'll vary the word in the sentence. So you're going to be bouncing around, which has a bunch of added benefits. The most important benefit of this is that it really breaks the one-to-one association that you build with flashcards. And I don't just mean the one-to-one association, as in you add a word and you learn the one-to-one translation of that. That, I think everybody would agree, is the wrong way to use flashcards. But even if you add strong, compelling, close deletion cards that are rich in context, very quickly, you will start to get to the point where you hear one syllable of the sentence and you know what word you need to type in. If you're only ever being tested on a single word in an expression or in a sentence or in a flashcard, your brain is going to very quickly figure out how to cheat. And anytime I've used flashcards or a closed deletion style program before, I have so many cards where the moment I hear a syllable, the moment the audio starts, there's some little click that immediately I know the answer. I don't even know what the sentence is about. I don't know which word is missing. I haven't done any rational processing or thinking this through or struggling. It's just this Pavlovian response of you hear the first syllable, you know the answer because you've done this a couple times. Our brains are really, really efficient at saving this kind of information. So in phrasing, the second dimension that we vary is the word and the context. You're going to be tested on different words for every expression, so you can't build this one-to-one association with the word. We also will start by closing out a single word and then start to close out the surrounding words and start to close out entire phrases. So even if you do get to the point where maybe you know which word comes after, a lot of times I'll be doing reviews and I'll know that if I hear this word, the next word is going to be X. And once I then take out the word before it, all of a sudden I realize I don't know what that word X is. I only had associated it with the word immediately prior. And so we'll do a lot of variation here to make sure that every expression you create is going to be as useful as possible and have as long as a shelf life as possible. I've been studying some expressions for almost a year now, and I still don't have this Pavlovian response, this immediate just instinct of I hear it and I know the answer. I still have to think through every one. I'm still bouncing around. I'm still struggling, and I'm still learning from these expressions that I've been seeing now for almost a year, which is exactly what you want, because there's a good chance that even if you've seen an expression for a year, you don't know everything about that expression. You don't know every word, every phrase, every correlation, every translation. So the fact that you can still keep getting value out of your expressions for a very long time is a great indicator to me that the application is working to actually teach you, because it's making you think and it's testing you on stuff that you actually don't know. And there's enough variation that you're not just rote memorizing anything. You actually have to learn in order to succeed in the reviews. So that's the second dimension, where we vary it based on the word and what we're testing you on and how many words and all of that. What is the context? What is the close? What is the target that you're studying in each thing? We can vary that access as well. So that's the second dimension. The third dimension, though, is the coolest, and this is kind of depth. So when I'm doing reviews in phrasing, I'll do them in a variety of different ways. One way to do a review in phrasing is to open it up. You see a word, you try to type it in, you grade it, you go on to the next, try to type it in, grade it, go on to the next, and you can just power through a bunch of reviews. This is how most people will use most flashcard applications. However, phrasing has explanations for so many different things. It has explanations for every word, for every phrase, for every chunk. There's a large language model integrated into it, so you can ask any questions you have. It has the audio that you can play in line and hear the individual words. There's so much to explore in every single expression that another way you can use phrasing is to see a word, try to guess it, read the answer, read through the explanations, read through the other explanations of the other words, grade some of the other words. Maybe there were some that you forgot or that you really want to learn, change the priorities there, open up the shapes feature, explore the phrases, explore the chunks, read how these all fit together to form the review, play the audio for different chunks or different phrases or different words, and practice speaking them aloud. Can you get your mouth to produce these sounds without tripping over itself? And you can spend an entire 5-10 minutes on a single review, and you can just keep diving deeper and deeper and deeper and going into these rabbit holes and asking questions to the large language model and trying to just really understand how everything is coming together in the language to form this expression. And so that variability between just blowing through your reviews or really diving deep and studying every single expression very deeply is the third dimension that you can vary. And that's incredibly powerful, because sometimes I don't have the focus to open up an application and really piece together all of these different parts of the expression. And I just want to open up the app, coast through some reviews, and just work on my recall, really memorize these things. And other times, my brain is going, I'm ready. I'm not in a rush. I'm ready to learn. And so I can open up phrasing and I can dive deep into whatever I'm interested about. Maybe today it's this verb. How does this not work? Maybe it's all of these phrases. How do these come together? Maybe it's this construction. How does this construction work? Wherever my curiosity lies, I can follow. And that is incredibly powerful, to not have a template where today we're talking about the present tense or today we're going to be doing this conjugation, but instead to be presented with information or with an expression. And if something catches your eye, if you're curious about something, if there's something that you just wonder, why is this like this? You can go in and you can find out. And the fact that you're interested about it, the fact that you're asking questions, the fact that you're following your own curiosity is going to boost your learning dramatically. And another really cool thing about this third dimension is that you don't really have to choose ahead of time. I'll open up phrasing and maybe I'll just be blowing through reviews because I don't think I have the energy, but then something comes up and I'm like, wait, why is that? Why is that like that? And I start to explore that one expression. And then I start to explore all the different phrases. And I really get an understanding of that. And then I carry on and I just do another couple reviews until something else catches my interest, until something else sparks my curiosity, until I have another question. And so throughout the review session, I'm varying this based off of however much attention I have, however much focus I have, however much interest I have. I can really guide the learning myself to match my mood, to make sure that I am really receptive to everything that I'm learning. I don't have to force anything at any point. I don't have to try and focus on anything or try and retain anything, because I'm just curious and I just want to learn. And at some point, if you see expressions often enough, there will be times when you're just curious, why is this like that? Why is that word in that form? Why does this end this way? Why? You'll get these whys eventually. And they're not going to be every day. They're not going to be every expression. They're not going to be every card. They're not going to be every review, but you will get them. And when you have those questions, that's when you're most receptive to learning. That's when you should explore it. That's when you should pursue it. And so that's what makes the third dimension of flashcards and phrasing very unique. So most applications or all flashcard applications have at least one dimension, and that is time. You add your cards, they show it over time. Phrasing then expands upon this, and we vary the context. So we vary what we're teaching you. We vary what we're testing you on. We're interlinking every single word across all of your expressions to create this language graph, this web of information. So we can test you on different parts of the expression that you create. And then the third dimension is the depth. How deep do you want to go into your studies? How deep do you want to go into each expression? What is your attention level like today? What is your focus level like? How much do you want to learn? Do you just want to do surface level and focus on remembering, which is not a bad thing. I feel I feel obliged to mention that that's a very important part of language learning. A lot of language learning is just remembering, and it's totally fine to just do every single session in a week just going through flashcards, just trying to remember, never diving deep into expression. I will go several days without ever exploring an expression very deeply if I'm busy, otherwise preoccupied. I just show up, I get in my reviews, I trust in the algorithm. It helps me remember a ton of information. And that is extremely important in language learning. But then other times, something will come up, I'll be curious, and whenever I'm ready, I can just dive deep and I can explore and I can learn. And that's by far the coolest, most powerful aspect of phrasing. And of course, all of the explanations, they're pre-generated. So I don't have to come up with questions, ask for questions, wait for the answer. I don't need to know what to ask. I've already done all of the work to answer 95% of the questions anybody's going to have about an expression. The answer is probably already there to tap, explore, and learn. For the other 5% of the answers that aren't there, there's a large language model attached. You can ask a question, but you don't even have to put in that effort. You just have to tap on the word, read an explanation. It's very plain, simple, well-formatted, plain English. You can probably get answers to every question that you want to know in your review without ever having to type in a question, without even ever having to explicitly ask something. You just think, that's strange. Let's find out more. You tap on the word, you open up the shapes feature, you find the answer, and you probably find more answers than you were looking for. You might just have a small little question and you walk away with a bunch of information that you're glad that you learned. So those are the three dimensions of flashcards. That's why I always say phrasing has 3D reviews, or they're 3D flashcards. It's just all of these axes are different dimensions that we can change that end up creating really powerful, really dynamic, really engaging, and really effective reviews. So if you want to try it out, go to Phrasing.app. It's a website for now, but you can add it to your phone just like an application. It's not in the app stores at the moment, but you go in on your browser, on your phone, on your computer, log in, give three-dimensional reviews a try, and let me know how they go. Thanks for listening. Ciao.